There is some crazy proof that Paul Heyman is turning on Roman Reigns, and we're going to show you guys a variety of photos, screen grabs, and things that you need to see to better understand this. WWE just had a hell of an episode of SmackDown. They revealed CM Punk is the 5th member for the Bloodline, the OG Bloodline. Paul Heyman winking, giving us signs. There is so much to dissect. We're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about why this is such a great storyline, why I am happy the 5th member isn't Seth Rollins, why it shouldn't be Brock Lesnar or Seth Rollins. This is literally masterpiece storytelling, so let's just jump right into it. WWE last night, maybe you guys didn't know this, maybe you didn't see this, but this is a screen grab. Paul Heyman wore a black suit with a red shirt and a red pocket accessory. Now, obviously, the people aren't going to think too much into this, but there was a couple different things that you guys need to acknowledge of how we got here. So the first one is the attire. Now, you might be wondering, why does that matter? What's the big deal here? Well, look no further. That is the signature look of Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa has really come into his own as the leader of the Bloodline and their version of the Bloodline. But obviously, this is not a coincidence. Between Solo Sikoa and what we are seeing right here with Paul Heyman, it is very clear that they are in cahoots with each other. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, Ango, it could just be a pure coincidence. It could be WWE trying to throw people off. And that is obviously very possible. WWE could be trying to throw a swerve here. But why would Paul Heyman bring in CM Punk as the 5th member for the Bloodline? Well, a lot of people tend to forget this, but Roman Reigns has been trying to call Paul Heyman for a while now, and he can't get a hold of Paul Heyman. He hasn't been able to talk to Paul Heyman since WrestleMania. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't seem to understand this, but you need to understand this very clearly by looking at this image. Right here, Paul Heyman is seen with 2 phones. Now, we cannot forget about the fact that Paul Heyman had one of those phones destroyed, and the phone that was destroyed was the Bloodline. It was the Roman Reigns phone. It wasn't The Rock, it was Roman Reigns, and that was destroyed by Solo Sikoa. So obviously, Roman Reigns hasn't been able to get a hold of Paul Heyman, but Paul Heyman obviously couldn't get a hold of Roman Reigns if that phone doesn't work. So whatever this is, WWE is clearly plotting. And then you might be wondering, how does CM Punk get into the mix? And we're going to talk about that in just a second. But it's not a coincidence. You see this, you see this, and you see this, and you bring them all together, and it's very clear that Paul Heyman clearly is in cahoots with the new Bloodline. However, this is where things get interesting. Could there be more to it? Now, some of you guys don't know, but Paul Heyman, maybe you missed it, he winked at Jimmy Uso when Paul Heyman was in the middle of that stare down between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. So obviously you can't see it here, and I can't show you guys due to copyrighted footage, but Jimmy and Jay are behind Roman as well as Sami Zayn. There's a moment where Paul Heyman winks at Jimmy, and that is really odd, because I have a very strong feeling that maybe Paul Heyman isn't the only one turning on Roman Reigns. And what's even crazier is that this could be a situation where somebody else turns on Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Sami. I mean, guys, there's years of storytelling where it could make sense for them to actually turn on him yet again. But why would they want to go heel? Why would they want to do that? Well, that to me tells me that WWE could very well be switching things up. And how would they switch things up? I think the one person that a lot of people need to keep in mind there would be Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is one that loves Solo so much, but when it came to him getting an opportunity for the WWE Championship against Cody, Solo basically made Jacob Fatu stand down. So that was a little Easter egg that potentially tells me Jacob Fatu could be switching sides. So what if Jacob Fatu and Jimmy Uso swap places under Paul Heyman? I think WWE is going to drag this out for a while, and obviously that could be a pretty good thing, or it could be a pretty bad thing. But last night's reveal with CM Punk as a 5th member is the perfect thing. Now, you might be asking me, why is that such a good thing? Well, for one, Seth Rollins absolutely turned down the opportunity to be the 5th member. He did not want to team with Roman Reigns. So now WWE is literally bringing both of these storylines together. And they're bringing these storylines together in a way that is really cool, because Seth Rollins turned it down, but CM Punk and the Wise Man obviously have history together. And because they have history together, this is one of those situations where Paul Heyman is doing this for, CM Punk is doing this for Paul Heyman. Now keep that in mind when you look at this image right here with CM Punk. Even though it's not on the mic, he looks at Roman and basically says, it's not about me and you, it's about him, the Wise Man. So this is CM Punk's favor to Paul Heyman, which makes a lot of sense. Seth Rollins is not going to like that, and that's going to help further the feud between Seth and CM Punk. Now remember, I don't know if you guys ever heard me talk about this on the channel, but WWE has gotten to a point where they are so long-term storytelling based that it gets to a point where you have to find ways to stall certain storylines. You're throwing in Easter eggs. So WWE already planted the seeds with CM Punk and Seth Rollins for a long time. They've done that for a long time. Then enters Bronson Reed, which kind of takes Seth Rollins' attention away from CM Punk. But now this is another seed that's being planted where WWE could be really, really good about getting them back on track at a certain point. Now, why would CM Punk help Paul Heyman but not really care to help Roman Reigns? That is a match of the future, by the way. CM Punk and Roman Reigns is something that they are going to do at some point. It's inevitable. So you have to wonder if CM Punk, being the fifth member, is actually the wild card here. Because CM Punk could be doing a favor for Paul Heyman, but if Paul Heyman is in fact working with Solo Sikoa, then wouldn't Paul Heyman inevitably turn heel? Wouldn't that inevitably make the storyline between him and Seth Rollins even bigger? Because Seth Rollins at some point will need Roman Reigns, because obviously he's going to need Roman Reigns. As much as he doesn't want Roman Reigns, he is going to need Roman Reigns because of what is happening with CM Punk. I don't know how this is going to go hand in hand with the Bloodline storyline, but I do think there is an opportunity there to really dive deep, and I think WWE could do that in such a great way. I wouldn't be shocked if that actually happens. Maybe CM Punk aligning with Paul Heyman, but if Paul Heyman is with Solo, it could be something there. And I just want to keep that as an open mind. I think that's a very interesting theory that I've come up with. I think Seth Rollins at some point will need Roman Reigns, and that's going to turn into some magnificent feud for WrestleMania. Who knows, man? Cody keeps telling us whatever we all think is happening for WrestleMania, we don't really know. I could see both of these storylines crossing together, which would be a very good idea, especially if The Rock isn't actually working WrestleMania, which I think he will, but even if he's not, getting CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Cody, Roman, Bloodline, all intertwined, it actually could lead to something really good, as long as it's not chaotically booked in a way like it actually has to make sense type of thing. But yeah, this is a really cool thing. I'm glad it's not Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins is a very interesting piece to the story. I think at some point he and Roman will have to team up, which is something I do look forward to seeing how that goes. But let's not get it twisted, man. This is one of those things where WWE is doing an exceptional job storytelling. Paul Heyman winking at Jimmy. Jacob Fatu loves Solo Sikoa. Like, there is something here that is so much bigger. They're obviously teasing it. We don't know what it's going to be or how it's going to be, but I love my theory. Let me know your guys' theory down below.